Why tragic murder of boy by friends happened after juveniles take life. The case of a Washington teenager killed by his preteen pals. With friends like these, who needs enemies? Indeed, sometimes in life, the people we consider our best buddies could wind up being our worst enemies. That's one harsh lesson the family of a Washington teenager tragically and needlessly found out the hard way nearly 2 decades ago. Craig Sorger was born on February 10, 1990 in Everett, Washington, and grew up in Ephrata, Grant County, Washington, a small town of around 6,000 people, with his mother, Lisa, his father, Chuck, and his younger brother, Keith. Although he was mildly autistic and a special education student, he lived a very average life. A bright, sweet, and affectionate kid, Craig loved the outdoors and animals, had a great sense of humor and a passion for race cars, video games, and science. He could even make the lights work on a broken VCR, according to his mother. Can he come out and play? On a gray and drizzly mid-afternoon of February 15, 2003, 5 days after Craig's 13th birthday, Lisa answered the door. Met with the sight of two 12-year-old boys, Jake Akin of Moses Lake and Evan Savoy of Ephrata, standing in the rain in their hooded sweatshirts. The boys asked her if one of her sons, Craig, could come out and play with them. Although Lisa was not all that familiar with them since her sons had played with the boys before, she saw no harm in allowing Craig to go out and play for a bit. So, under the condition that he'd return home soon, she saw him off. Later, just a few hours later, as night fell and Craig still had not returned home, Lisa knew something was wrong. After all, not only had he promised, but he was afraid of the dark, so there was no reason for him to be out so late. As fear crept its way into her heart, Lisa and the family immediately began searching the neighborhood for Craig, all while not knowing where Akin or Savoy was. Then, at one point during her search, Lisa found her way to the home of Savoy, where she found both him and Akin there but no sign of Craig. Now more alarmed than ever, Lisa called 911 before she and her family resumed their search at the local RV park called Oasis Park. Joining them this time were Savoy, his parents, and members of the Ephrata Police Department. However, it wasn't long before the search came to a tragic conclusion. Discovered in a wooden enclave near a trail in the park was Craig's body. As soon as her son's body was located and she caught sight of Savoy, Lisa immediately pointed him out as being involved. Following the discovery, both Akin and Savoy were taken in for questioning that night. Unfortunately, they were both the last known to see Craig alive. Meanwhile, an autopsy revealed that Craig was bludgeoned and stabbed repeatedly. The suspects, Jake Akin and Evan Savoy, both being 12 years of age at the time, made an unlikely pair of persons of interest, much less considered suspects just from their age alone. By most accounts, both were students in special education, and neither had a history of getting arrested, running away, smoking, drinking, mental illness, or significant misconduct at school, or were even known to be obsessed with violent movies or video games. Savoy was popular and a class clown at school and viewed as the leader in the duo's friendship. Meanwhile, Akin was a target of bullying, mainly due to being small for his age, could barely read, had an IQ of 83 and a severe learning disability. As for their friendship with Craig, Savoy was the one who met Craig at school first and was also the one to introduce Craig to Akin. During Savoy's trial, while Lisa testified that she never really saw Savoy or Akin around before that fateful afternoon, Keith stated that he and Craig had played with them on a handful of occasions before the incident. When questioned by police, the boys initially claimed they had been climbing trees and playing tag until Craig left to head back home at around 4:30 p.m. However, they soon changed their stories to say they witnessed Craig fall from a tree. The police found no such evidence to support. Another thing to note was that, during the search for Craig, Savoy notably tried steering the police away from where Craig's body was. When asked why he did that, Savoy replied that he didn't want to get blamed for Craig's death, which he was in a way. Upon searching the scene, a bloodstained sweatshirt was recovered from a nearby pond with traces of Craig's DNA on it, which authorities soon traced back to Savoy. Also found in the pond was the mostly intact suspected murder weapon, a wood-handled Bar Creek knife, the rest found with Craig's body. With evidence quickly mounting against them, the pair were arrested in February 2003 and charged with first-degree murder and tried as adults. Later, Akin changed his story again while at a juvenile detention center. In this version, Akin stated that he had run back to get sodas only to return in time to see Savoy standing over Craig. He added that he then saw Savoy throw something into the nearby pond, the same one where police would retrieve the bloodstained sweatshirt and knife. The trials and convictions. In February 2005, the Washington Supreme Court declined to hear the case, thereby upholding the decision to have both boys tried as adults. As a result, they became the youngest defendants to be tried as adults in the state since 1931. That same year, after 26 months spent in jail while awaiting trial, Akin confessed to his role in Craig's killing. After pleading to second-degree murder by complicity, he also agreed to testify as a witness against Savoy. In exchange for the guilty plea, Akin was initially going to receive 8 years in prison until the judge ruled that there were no mitigating factors to allow for such a sentence. So, instead, he was handed a sentence of 14 years. Up until this point, during his trial, Savoy's family had understandably believed that he was innocent. Then came Savoy's trial, during which his defense team suggested that 2 other people could be the real culprit to the crime. One of the alternative suspects his defense threw out was the victim's father, even though Chuck was out of town when it happened. The other was a local 15-year-old boy, Cody Koch, who had a troubled past and juvenile criminal record, and who testified to having secretly witnessed the pair kill Craig. On April 29, 2006, Savoy was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to the maximum that could be imposed, more than 26 years in prison. However, in 2011, his conviction was overturned on appeal. The reasoning behind the appeal was twofold, the first being for the trial judge's closure of parts of the trial to the public. The second was for him having appointed a lawyer for the victim's family, this after medical records were inadvertently released, who intervened in the trial. Later developments. On June 12, 2016, Akin escaped from work release while serving the final months of his sentence. Then, 2 days after his escape, he was recaptured in Rapid City, South Dakota, by U.S. Marshals. After being returned to custody, his original sentence was extended. As of 2021, Akin has since been released. He had also since become a father himself, a born-again Christian, and a hardline anti-abortion activist based in eastern Washington, where he spends time preaching the gospel and being a thorn on the side of Planned Parenthood. As for Savoy, it appears that he had also since been released back in June 2020. At the end of the day, a young life needlessly was lost, and the 2 people responsible, while they did their time, will forever remain stained by the actions of their youth and poisoned minds.